We, excuse me, are live. Alrighty, folks. So today we have the PCM Daily Man Games race for GP Moscow. I'm gonna wait a minute or two to get started, but we can take a look at our teams before we go, and then we will get racing. First, we've got Akermot. And first of all, I'm sorry if I mispronounce team names because I've only ever thought about them in my head and never tried to say them. So they will most likely going for, well, Anderberg is an option on the flat, as is Konachev. No huge sprinter here. Deli, we'll see. And Laporte doesn't seem to have the skills of his in real life counterpart. They'll be going there. So Carlsberg is also an option. Rodenberg, probably their sprinter there, 79.79. So, Cedevita. Jasper Philipsen should be one of the best sprinters in the field. We'll see if he's on the favorite list here in a second. But at 81 sprint, he should be one of the ones looking for a top 5 here today. Our control team, sadly, I have not gotten Jack Starr's lovely control team jersey into the game yet, but they'll be leaving the race very quickly after the start. Elko Abea will be, of course, sprinting with Ferrantakis, an 82 sprinter and a great leader and one of the top 20 in the PT right now. Elko will also be doing Avyanikov, a 79 sprint, 78 acceleration. Probably not the big favorite here, but you never know in a sprint like this. As we come to Fastnet, they should be sprinting for Vesely here. 80 sprint, 79 acceleration, a great option. Van Hooydonk, if some reason he can get out in front, but no cobbles here in our fake race at Moscow. Gazelle could have an option in Tunison, but is probably sprinting for Norman Vatra. We'll have to see here how it goes. No real great option for them, so expect to see them in the breakaway. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this and ruin it, but we are looking for Anger here, 81 sprint, 78 acceleration. This would be their last, one of the last chances to get a great result, so we'll see what happens there for this team from Norway. Grieg Maersk is also here from Norway. Pedersen is an option if we go to a flat breakaway type of situation. Abrahamson as well. No great sprinter for them, so Pedersen is probably the leader. But we'll see how it goes. Indosat carries the leader along the way in Fernando Gaviria. An 83 sprint, 84 acceleration. If this lead out goes well, and we'll talk about it during the race, they should be the ones to beat. Jura, Caden Groves, of course, one of the great sprinters of the league. 80 sprint there. For King Power, it is Swan Ping Su as their likely leader with Emiliano Contreras as their great lead out. Los Polos Hermanos will be going for Halverson. The minions are here from the PCT division, stepping up. They'll be looking for Combarrage, most likely. And I did skip Liersk. They'll be going for Bonifacio. Polar for Minali. Niche, also a great option in the breakaway. One of the best Barradors in the field, so we'll see if they might try to get away. Puma will be going for Max Cantor with Felix Gross as their leadout. Rabobank, Aniolkowski with Koi as the leadout there. Two good options in case anything goes wrong. For Sony Force India, of course, it is Kulakovsky. Tinkoff, it is Samolenkov probably being the leader there. Skoins is coming in case anybody decides to attack on some of the smaller hills. Seneschal could get away, but that's unlikely. So it should be Samolenkov for Tinkoff Team Ladacha. Team UBS is another one looking for the breakaway or a small group getting away. So Johann Jacobs would be their likely favorite. Not seeing a lot of other options there. Vesuvio, we've got Spangler trying to do it again. No big sprinter. When you've got Gunnlaugsson as your top option, you might see how the race is going to go for you. Florian Vermeersch is a breakaway option for Zero Racing. Novar Dianto, another option who tries to get in the breakaway all the time alongside Tesfaye. Hugo Uhl sometimes can sprint, but maybe, and my guess would be Florian Vermeersch is the one sprinting for them. And then finally, Cycle Yorkshire, we've got Gabriel Coulet and Salim Kemboy. And we take a look at the briefing to see who the official favorites are. Oh, apologies. I need to go back because I have selected by accident the Cycle Yorkshire team. So. And that's much better of a lineup for our team. We got the favorites there. Kemboy is an interesting choice for Cycle Yorkshire. They've put them over Coulet, but we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, I think some of the names we expected, Soren Krei Anderson also popping up, so they're looking at the flat riders even more than the sprinters. And as we load, I will be taking a couple screenshots for the report during this race, but it will be a smaller report than normal since we've got the video. And looking forward to talking through these teams and the race as it goes along. We'll see if everything goes to plan for our teams. And there we've got our team here. We want to make sure that our control team doesn't get away. They'll be going there, and we'll get to the front of the race to see what happens in the breakaway action for this Grand Prix Moscow. And the riders are off. Slowly, it seems, in the first second. But we'll pay attention to what's happening up front. And we already have our first breakaway attempt. And we'll see who those riders are exactly once we get rolling here. We don't want to get too distracted and miss some of the other attacks. It looks like we do have a number of teams trying to create the gap, though. And the withdrawal of our control team has now occurred. And let's see who those 4 riders are off in front if things calm down. But it does look like we've got folks from Indosat who are going to control, alongside Rabobank and Aker Moat as the 3 teams really in control there. And now Cycle Yorkshire throws somebody to the front as well. So let's look at these 4 riders. And they are Spangler, Salzman, Bloom, and Fradevo. And they've gotten out to a minute so far, and it looks like folks have calmed down. Who knows if this will be the full breakaway, but this is what we've got so far. And again, looking at those breakaway riders who seem to be getting a nice break now, we've got Fradevo. And Fradevo is one of the younger riders with not too much strength here, so probably not likely to make it to the finish. We have got Bloom, who is one of the better TTers in this field. Obviously not important for a one-day race, but a good rider on the flat and good energy stats, so potential there for him. We've got Salzman, one of our Cobble Domestiques for King Power. And then we've got Spangler. Probably the best rider of this breakaway group, we would have to say. But you never know with how things will go. But one of the strongest riders, not a huge acceleration, which is good for him to have gotten out in front. And let's take a look at their faces as we prepare for screenshot. And apologies if some of the game audio was having a few issues. We've removed that now. And we'll take a look at our riders. And again, we took a little bit of a review over the teams here, and we'll go to ×2 speed through the flat section. Don't want it to go too fast, but it is Indosat that has the front leader of the peloton, and that is Gaviria. And we'll slide back to see the peloton as we talk about this. But Gaviria will likely be led out by Nur Hassan, and then a combination of Baska and Tronson probably will be the lead out for Indosat. That is one of the strongest groupings that you could possibly have. Now, they are contributing on the front. And now, of course, but there's a good number of teams with such a small breakaway. So not too much to worry for them. It doesn't look like they should have a strong lead out at the end. Gaviria is, of course, also the strongest rider in the PT that we have in this field. They are ranked 13th in the current individual rankings. The top sprinter on that list, really. You know, it's tough to root against him um, or to bet against him if the odds were done. But we can see Elko Abea also putting a large contingent at the front here. Ferrantakis is the only other top 20 point scorer so far this season in the field. They have got potential leadouts from Bautopoulos. Cavagna should be there from a flat perspective. And Axel Zongler will be the last rider probably for the Greek squad. That's the reason you add a French rider to your Greek lineup is somebody like a 78 perfect lead out rider and a very young rider for Axel Zongler. Now we've got a small issue for Novarn Dianto, who we thought might be one of the riders in the breakaway. They had a puncture in their back. But taking a look at that breakaway, they've now gotten up to over 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's probably the largest break we'll see today. That should start coming down here, or at least start leveling off. And we're here about 140 kilometers to go. You know, you see riders trying to hold spots in the peloton. It looks like most of our favorites are near the front. We see Pedersen here. Let's see where some of our other riders are. We've got Anil Koski also towards the front of the peloton. We've got Max Cantor, obviously towards the front for Team Puma SAP. We've got Halverson also near the front in that beautiful Los Pollos Hermanos jersey. Kemboy is up front. Coulet is also near the front, so it's possible that while he may not be considered the team leader, that they do sprint for him. That would be my guess, but we'll have to see how it goes. Pedersen, we already pointed out. Samolenkov, we've pointed out, also towards the front in the Russian national champions jersey. Konashev, I'm not sure how he's going to get away today or if he's going to be sprinting, but we'll have to see. Philipson also near the front. Groves near the front. You know, we're sensing all of this. The leaders are not going to get dropped behind. Enger also giving a little bit of space to the front, but nothing too major. Rodenberg. Gunnlaugson, this is where you see the difference in some of these teams. When you get to EA Vesuvio, they don't have a real leader for this race. There's some great riders and different parcours, but not maybe for today. So they are not quite as near the front. Kulikovsky is also towards the back. This one's a little bit more of a surprise to see them behind. Jacobs, again, Team UBS in the back here, not doing too much. Our control team, again, really pointing out our riders from Suriname, Kuwait, and France, but they're no longer in the race. They've stepped off the course. So we've got just a little more than 100 kilometers to go, and it is our breakaway still up front with 5 minutes. Looks like more riders from Indosat Ooredoo contributing at the front now. Gaviria is right in position, but Jurado and Sagiv are protecting him. And then we've got Muhammad doing most of the pacing for them. You see Elko Abea also contributing with Banu, and they've got their riders near the front as well. Anderson doing the same for Cycle Yorkshire. They're the three teams contributing the most. Team Puma and of course Pollos Hermanos are contributing, but not quite to the same level. And it looks like Cedevita has also decided that they are going to contribute to the chase here today. It's always important as you're kind of watching some of these races to see which of these sprinters are closest to the front. Coulee, Gaviria, and Conter, I think, are the three who are closest to the front. And then Ferrantakis is right with them alongside Philipsen. Not saying they're going to be our top five, but if you look at their stats, at their strengths, to not see one of the five of them as the winner would be a major upset, I would believe, especially given how much their team are contributing. Obviously, Halverson is the outsider there, also working for Los Pollos Hermanos. So probably those six are the teams that you should expect to see putting up the biggest trains in the finale and coming up with the big result. In this little lull as we enter 85 kilometers to go. Congratulations to Rabobank on leading the PT table here after the first half of the season. Now we're getting into the month of June in our man game calendar. So Rabobank is leading by just 11 points over King Power. EA Vesuvio is also in the mix, 30 points behind them. So, we've got three teams here who could really switch up the top of the standings. We won't see an update till the end of June, but we'll have to see how those results go. Rabobank probably the best chance to strengthen their lead today, with Anielkowski being the best sprinter for those three teams combined. But, King Power's got an option in Sioux, so it's probably not EA Vesuvio's day, as the breakaway is coming back now, only 3 minutes and 15 seconds with 70 kilometers to go. They've halved the break from double the distance. So we'll have to see. But with just three out front, and let's look how strong they look at the moment. Spangler seems to be doing all right. Fradevo as well. Bloom, Salzman, everybody seems to be taking their turns. And let's take a second to watch these final 5 kilometers of the circuit. We've got one big right turn, a little bit of an S turn here with just over 2 kilometers to go, I would say. Also a climb to 2.6%. But from about 1.5 out, it is a straight line pretty much. A little bit of a curve in the road there, but it is a flat finish. And let's also look at the wind. In the bottom right corner there, you can see a 40-knot wind that folks are finishing. Apologies, it might be miles per hour, in America. But that is a strong wind. I don't foresee any chance of crosswinds breaking up the peloton necessarily, but the riders that have been on the front could be facing a bit more of a challenge with these strong winds. Not sure if it's coming at their heads in the finale, but let's see if we can take a look at that on the map. So with the finish down here, it does look like the wind is going to be a crosswind for the finale. So we'll have to watch and see the strength of that as we get to the end of the race. And for our final 45 kilometers, we will go down to point 0.1 speed just to make sure we don't miss anything. And we did have a call, it looked like, for a breakaway. Can't control that, of course, but I think given such a small early break, there might be chance for some attackers. Where on this course, though, is really the challenge. There's not much of an option for folks getting away. There's some of these small hills, but really shouldn't be where folks make the difference. As Mohammed probably gets domestique duty of the day, having been on the front of the peloton the most of anybody. We did talk a little bit earlier about the teams that were at the top of the PT field. Looking at the teams who have not had quite as much success this year, Jura Giants and Los Pollos Hermanos are probably the two teams looking for the most out of this race. But Team Puma SAP will also be looking for a great result. They've used one of the smaller race days of the division, but are in those relegation points at the moment. So if any of those teams can get a great result, that'd be important. Liersk SK also in a good spot with Bonifacio, who, as I wrote in my preview, is always kind of hit or miss. He might come out with a win and he might come out with a 50th place. You never know with the Italian sprinters. So we'll have to see what happens today. As the riders approach the finish line once again with 30 kilometers to go and just 75 seconds. No one looking likely to attack quite yet, but we do see the Akermat team with Konashev, Laporte, Raim all up front here. They might be looking for an attack. What we can see here is that the team of Indosat has dropped off the I lied there. Curado, they have changed riders. So some of the riders who've been putting in lots of effort are now going to be falling back to the back of the peloton. That is obviously expected, but we start to see some trains lining up with Cycle Yorkshire being the first to really put 5 riders together. Indosat next to him. And then, of course, Elko Abea, also with Ferrantakis, is getting in line. Puma also trying to do their best for Contour. Let's take a second at the 20-kilometer mark here just to really get a view of what these teams are doing from the top. So we've got Kule in line. It looks like they won't be going for Kemboy, but Kemboy is an option. Still in really the train. We've got Gaviria. Halverson has a lead out, or at least someone kind of making sure he's getting and staying at the front in Erdenabat. Ferrantakis is kept at the front, and so is Contour. If you're not in these positions, it shows that you're willing to risk a little bit in the lead up to the sprint. So we'll have to see what these other teams will do. And it is now Indosat Ooredoo really trying to catch the break here. Some of the other teams, as we saw before, are doing well. Silva also trying to do the work for Indosat. And we see our first rider from the break come back in Fradevo, while the other 3 are still riding strong. Gaviria in best position so far with 13K to go. And we've got a small group off the back. We expect those to be some of the domestiques. But it is 13K to go, and we see no more breakaway. Want to make sure we get this for our report. And we'll continue as we look at Anielkowski, who is now starting to get in position. Not much of a train there, but good to see. Ten kilometers to go. That looks to be the team from Polar trying to get out in front. It is Denneberg. Let's see if this breakaway gets a shot. So we've got Soren Kra Anderson out front, followed by Sutter, Niche, who is struggling a little bit on the sprint but is trying to get away. Bierman's also trying to get out in front. DeLee, and then we see Nir Hassan already having to do some work for Indosat Ooredoo, which could be a struggle at the end. And Kemboy, clearly no longer the sprinter of choice for Cycle Yorkshire. But this is a big break with Anderson trying to make an attempt with 8 kilometers to go. We'll take a second at 5K to see if he's still out in front. And it is Niche trying to get out with Anderson there. This is a big attack, and it's not really being brought back as strongly as we would expect. There's the front of the peloton. It is Kemboy, one of the stronger sprinters, but let's see really how that breakaway looks from the front. Oh, goodness. A zoom in there on Anderson. And it is Soren Kra, followed by that is Artem Nish, I believe, in the second position. Two of the riders that we thought might get away based on their flat stat. So this is a big